Good day, everyone, and welcome to Mirror View, a show where I review movies. I am Santos, coming to you from the Tesseract, and today I will be taking a look at Thor Ragnarok. This third installment of Thor, written by Eric Pearson, Craig Kyle, Christopher L. Yost, and directed by Taika Waititi, sees the return of Chris Hemsworth to the titular role. Tom Hiddleston is also back as Loki, and Cate Blanchett steals the spotlight with her portrayal as Hela, Goddess of Death. So, first off is the summary. Thor has been chained up by Surtur. We find out fairly early that he's actually had himself captured so he can get some answers to his nightmares. He's been seeing Asgard burning in flames, and he feels that it might be related to Surtur in some way, so he goes to find out. Turns out, Surtur has actually been destined to destroy Asgard and bring forth Ragnarok, the prophesied end of Asgard. Thor kicks his ass, takes his crown, and goes back home. Once he arrives home, he finds out that Odin is missing, and Loki has assumed the throne in his place by using his powers. Thor makes Loki take him to Odin, and turns out Loki had him committed to a retirement home, which has since been demolished. So, while there, they bump into Doctor Strange, who kind of just beams them out of nowhere, and he gets them on their way where they need to go. Once there, they witness Odin's death, and just upon his death, Hela, Goddess of Death, comes and attacks them. She's been released now that Odin is dead from her eternal prison. After seeing Thor's hammer destroyed by Hela, Loki summons forth the Bifrost and gets them out of the way because he realizes that they can't defeat her. While in transit, she kicks them out of the stream and they both end up on Sakaar, while she gets herself to Asgard. So at this point, our story diverges. We have Sakaar and we have Asgard. So let's focus on the Asgard side of things. On Asgard, Hela raises her forces from dead. He's just been kind of entombed and enshrined in a tube underneath Asgard, so she brings them back to life. And she starts eliminating any resistance to the throne and claims it for herself. On the other side of the universe, at Sakaar, Thor becomes enslaved by the Grand Master and forced to fight in the arena. Hammerless and losing hope, he is about to give up when he realizes that the champion that he has to fight is actually the Hulk. So he teams up with the Hulk and the Valkyrie, who is just sort of like a mercenary at this point, and she's an Asgardian who ran away during Hela's imprisonment. And so they team up and they stage a revolution of the slaves. Prisoners with jobs. They return to Asgard and start to fight Hela, but as her power comes from Asgard itself, she just keeps getting stronger and stronger. So Thor has this idea, after having a weird sort of inside head monologue dialogue thing with his father, he realizes that Asgard isn't the place, it's the people. And he understands now his visions of doom and gloom. He has to bring forth Ragnarok and destroy Asgard. So they load all the survivors and all the refugees from Asgard onto a ship and blow up Asgard and go away. And then we have two credit scenes. So we have a mid-credit where Thor and Loki discuss their return to Earth, and they discuss what's gonna happen, and they're overtaken by Thanos' ship and set up for the Infinity War. Then we have some credits, and we cut to the post-credit scene where we see the Grand Master, after the revolution of the slaves, kind of climbing out of his escape pod and thanking everyone and saying, you're welcome that I was here because if there was no one oppressing you, you would not have a reason to revolt. So it was all my doing, which is just Jeff Goldblum just being himself. So memorable moments. I have, 8 memorable moments in this movie that I really enjoyed. So at the beginning, when Thor returns to Asgard via the Bifrost, he is followed through with he is followed through by this, I don't want to say dragon, but dragon basically, and it gets sort of sliced in half, and you see Thor walks away, and then the dragon's head just slides into the Bifrost chamber, and blood and guts just squirt everywhere. When Thor is captured, there's a really, really funny scene, and it's like a total homage to Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, where he's tied to a chair and being chauffeured down a tunnel of weird, creepy things as the Willy Wonka theme is playing. It was just a really fun homage and a really funny scene. Then, of course, we get the one from the trailers, the Thor and Hulk battle, where Thor is all setting up with his helmet to go and battle this unknown champion, which is probably gonna destroy him and demolish him. And then he's like, "Oh, it's the Hulk." Like, yes, we know each other from work. I just love that scene. That was just a fun scene. Then, of course, there's Hela's executioner speech, where she's like, "Oh, leaders need, people to execute, and the executing isn't just executing people, it's executing ideas, which kind of just happens by executing people." So it's like, little fun moment for there. Then there's like that Thor in the Quinjet scene, where he's trying to use the panel to override the systems and, see if he can fly the ship. And there's this whole, who what is the nickname of everyone in the Avengers and S.H.I.E.L.D. for him? So he's like, "Oh, the mightiest Avenger, the King of Thunder, the God of Thunder, the God of Lightning," all those names. And then it's like, I don't actually remember. It was like Break Alpha or something like that. Point Break. It was Point Break, right? Which is just like the most underwhelming name for him. And then we find out that Hulk is the most powerful Avenger. So then, of course, there's the Thor and Loki scene in the elevator, where you can actually see some brotherly bonding, and they're just sort of shooting the shit, and you find out that they actually have these routines that they've planned ahead of time that they use to trick others with. So there's the one "Help me, please," where Thor just throws Loki like a ragdoll at other people to distract them. Then, of course, there's the scene on Asgard in the vault where Loki goes to dump the crown into the eternal flame to start Ragnarok, and he walks by the Tesseract and he just kind of eyeballs it for a second, and you're like, yeah, he stole it. He totally stole it. And my final favorite scene, memorable moment of the movie, was the foundation speech given by Korg, where he's like, "Oh yeah, it's gonna be fine. You can rebuild it. If the foundations are solid, it's gonna be fine." And then the whole of Asgard just blows to hell, and he's like, "Oh well, now you don't have foundations. Now you're kind of screwed." That was a fun moment. Okay, let's talk some characters. So I had 3 standout characters really in this movie. So Kate Blanchett, she did a wonderful job with Hela. She threads the line of that misunderstood underdog, the dangerous force of darkness, and also someone just trying to have fun while they have to do what has to be done. She's the goddess of death, so that's her job. She has to do it. So might as well just enjoy what you're doing, right? Then of course we have Korg. He's a funny funny character. He's funny, brings levity and contrasts those like moments of doom and gloom. Gives you like real sort of chuckle right after time. He is essentially the comic relief in the movie. Very relaxed character, very calm and collected while he's slowly falling apart. Like literally bits of him fall apart because he's made of rock. And he's like, a little bit less, okay. He's kind of like, if you can picture your average college stoner, like just sort of chills all the time, plays with with the hacky sack, and is just mellow all the time. That's basically Korg. And then of course we have Jeff Goldblum portraying the Grandmaster. He maintains control even when it's slipping. He maintains order and keeps a level head when his underlings are very much more upset than he is. Like at one point someone interrupts him and his underling is like, "Boss, do you want me to decapitate him and cut his head off?" And he's like, "Whoa, cooler freaking jets. You just interrupted me. You didn't do anything else." Of course, as this is a Marvel movie, we get a Stan Lee cameo, and Stan Lee is just wonderful as the insane barber. He shows up just before Thor's about to go into the arena to fight the Hulk, and at this point Thor has really long hair. And then Stan Lee shows up with this thing that looks like a bunch of blender blades just sort of spinning without any containment or anything like that. It's just a bunch of blades. And he's like, "Oh, I've come to cut your hair." Funny scene. Love you, Stan Lee. R.I.P. Now let's talk about some money. So, the production budget for this movie was $180 million. It has way more than made up for it in all the box office sales. $854 million. And then, in addition to that, it made another $72 million in DVD and Blu-ray sales. That's just insane. I realize, like, Marvel, most movies are, like, roughly $1 billion kind of thing, but it's still baffling to me, just the amount of money that goes into these things and that people pay forward into these things. So, final thoughts. I thought Thor Ragnarok was a really awesome film. Fun ride, and even though it's part of the whole vast 20-whatever movie MCU, it's a decent standalone movie. Sure, Thor and Bruce Banner talk about some of the things that have happened in the MCU over the past couple of years, since Bruce has gone missing since Avengers Age of Ultron, I believe. And he's missed out on a whole lot of things that a regular MCU goer would have seen. But if you haven't seen any of those movies between these two, you can really just sort of take Bruce Banner's side and, get an update from Thor on everything that's happened. So it's really cool to stay in touch with it. If that makes any sense what I just said, but okay. Moving on. The cast is stellar, the directing and editing is on point, and I really love the soundtrack for this movie. Okay, so I realize I've praised the hell out of this movie so far, but I do also have some gripes. Mainly one gripe which would have made the movie a lot better. When we first get Hela's introduction to the people on Asgard, and she starts killing people that are not agreeing with her, she butchers like 30 or 40 people right there. Slicing and dicing and stabbing and impaling and skewering and decapitating and splitting right down the middle. She just like massacres them. And then we got a wide shot and there isn't a single drop of blood anywhere. Like, I'm sorry, but that's just super not realistic. I realize it's a Disney movie now, and they can't really show that because they would have to up the rating a bit. But visually, it would have made so much more impact had you actually seen, some pools of blood and stuff. Just a little, like a red streak or something when she slices someone, just have a bit of a spatter. Because it would have made a lot more sense visually, both for that scene and in a context of her character later on. At one point, she's in the throne room with Scourge, and she talks about the history of Asgard and how before she used to ride into battle with Odin and how they massacred civilizations and drenched them in blood, and there was, blood in the streets and all that kind of stuff. So it would have made a lot more visual sense had they actually showed some blood in this scene where she's massacring everyone. And also, in my opinion, it would have made her a lot more menacing as a character. Because, she does give a really good performance. Kate Blanchett is amazing in this role. But at the end of the day, there's no impact, and she's just sort of like the goddess of death. So she just kills for no reason. And it just loses impact. It loses impact, and you're like, okay, you're just another chicken a leotard that has this weird crown thing, which, yeah, just weird. So that's my only gripe with this movie. If it had a bit of more of a tone kind of like that with Hela scenes, would have added for a better dichotomy, I think, in the whole Hela brings forth death and then Thor fights for life. Would have been a lot better. So that's my review of Thor Ragnarok. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, like and subscribe and share and comment and all that kind of stuff. Let me know your thoughts on the movie. I realize I'm like a few years late coming to the review scene for this movie, but I just recently rewatched it, so thought I'd do it. Anyway, until next time, stay safe, and I will see you out there.